right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our third session of our Golden Thread documentation series. Today, we are covering goal development. My name is Crystal Sosha. I'm joined here by my colleague, Emily Bands. If there's anything that you need from us at any point, don't hesitate to reach out through the chat. I know there's a lot of us here, so we're doing our best to be mindful of what's happening in the chat, as well as muting you as time goes on. So let's jump right in. So before we begin, just want to acknowledge today's webinar is hosted by DBHR through the Washington State Healthcare Authority. This really is an interactive training, so we do ask that you engage in participation through the chat. Feel free to unmute, raise your hand, share emojis, whatever feels right for you, and we will be monitoring the chat throughout. The slides, as well as a link to the recording of this webinar, will be sent by email from Washington after the duration of this presentation has been completed. One more thing before we begin, we wanted to share this survey. So if you've already completed this survey, this is only a one-time survey. We're asking you to complete this voluntary survey to get your input. If you've ever attended any of our learning communities that Rutgers faculty and staff have facilitated over the past 5 years, to provide us with your feedback, what you liked, what you need more of, things for improvement. So we will share that in the chat. Thank you, Earl. And if there's ever any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Nora Barrett, and her email address is here. So again, if you've already completed this survey on one other occasion, it's not necessary. This is specific to our research study on our landlord outreach, buried in treasures, job developers, supported employment, supportive housing, supervisors, learning communities, as well as this Golden Thread documentation. So keep that in mind. Just some kind of housekeeping items. Please feel free to, again, use your audio or be connected to audio throughout this. Feel free to unmute yourself, respond in the chat, but we do ask that you do keep yourself muted if you are not speaking, just to reduce any background noise. I know there's 142 of us here today, so thank you for being here. You have the ability to keep your video on or turn it off if that feels more comfortable for you. Feel free to, again, use the chat to respond to questions throughout, unmute yourself. And again, this webinar is being recorded and will be shared with you by the Washington Healthcare Authority. So for today, we're about at the halfway mark. So we are covering the individualized service plan components and goal development. We have 3 additional sessions moving forward. So 3 more Mondays from now, 9:30 to 11 Pacific Standard Time. Thank you for being here. Here's a photo of me, which is just so wonderful and lovely. And just wanted to introduce myself because I haven't been here just yet. I have been involved in some of the learning communities, or rather webinars, that we do in collaboration with Washington, but my name is Crystal Sosha. I'm a senior training and consultation specialist for the Department of Psych Rehab and Counseling Professions at Rutgers in New Jersey. I'm a licensed professional counselor, certified rehabilitation counselor, national certified counselor, and an approved clinical supervisor. So just a bunch of alphabet soup behind my name. But I was really, similarly to the work that you're doing, started off in supportive housing about 10 years ago in the state of New Jersey, doing direct care work, working with individuals with serious mental health conditions. And a lot of my work has transitioned since then. If there's ever any audio concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out. Hopefully others can hear me. If someone could just let me know that you can hear me, that would be great. So again, I'm here to, thank you. I'm here to support you with session 3 today. Again, Earl is with us in the chat if there's ever any questions. Good, I'm glad I wasn't just talking to myself over here, just talking to a screen. Wonderful, okay. Okay, fabulous. So let's just jump in. We want to start off with the learning application. So since this is our 3rd session, we'd like to just cover what was explored in the past 2 sessions, and more specifically, last week we were able to talk a little bit about this wellness worksheet, which included the 8 dimensions of wellness and really asked individuals to explore where they're at now and where would they like to be on a scale of 1 to 5 with those 8 dimensions of wellness. So was anyone able to use this wellness worksheet with the client? Just yes or no in the chat would be helpful. Seen a couple yeses, a couple nos. Okay. 50-50. Have no fear if you have not gotten a chance just yet. We like to just kind of take inventory to see if you were able to use kind of the resources that we provided. So if you did, what information did you learn about the client from using the worksheet, and any observations, questions, or concerns when using this worksheet? Feel free to unmute yourself or share in the chat. And if you're also looking for the presentation for today, we'll ask if Earl could include that in the chat. That would be helpful. So what did you learn about the client when using this worksheet, or any kind of takeaways? Thank you, Earl. So if you were not able to use it or print out the form or the worksheet from last week, that's okay. Just getting a sense of those of us who said yes, what did you learn about your clients, or any observations, feedback? All right, I'm seeing some responses, and we'll make sure to get that worksheet to you as well. My concern is around clients wanting to get talking right away. They have things they want to tell us. Our folks aren't so interested in doing more worksheets or answering questions. The assessment was a lot, sometimes 3 sessions, so doing another structured session to get an ISP can be challenging. Absolutely, and we actually touch on that a little bit today, especially when you're working with someone and they have a very specific ISP or goal set out for themselves, and you go to meet them and there's something else that comes up. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Absolutely validating that challenge for sure. And yes, there's definitely, I'm noticing someone shared common themes among their goals. A lot of the time, the ISP feels like it's for us, not the clients. Okay. Yeah. And I think that can be hard because it's intended to be completed collaboratively. And yes, it's kind of some additional information that we need to gather from this person to continue doing the work that we're doing. And Kelly, I think that's great. So using a conversation rather than the form itself can be helpful for some people. I'm a big fan of handouts myself, so that's just the way that I like to learn. But if the people that you work with would rather just kind of have open dialogue with any of the resources that we share, this is really intended for you to tailor them in a way that makes most sense for the people that you see. So thank you for that feedback. Again, if you didn't get a chance to use it, not mandatory by any means, but we hope that you can utilize it in the future if it's helpful for you.
I think I just wanted to say like about the ISP is that because it's due so quickly, like really we need an ISP before we do any treatment at all. But
Mhm.
we've already done an assessment, we've asked them all these questions, they filled out these screenings and questionnaires, and then they're like, okay, finally I can just tell you what's going on. And we're like, no, just kidding. I need to do this document. It's due right away. I have a worksheet. Like it can feel like just one more thing that we have to do because it is for the client, but the deadline is on us to do right away. And so if they're like, no, I really just want to talk about this thing, then often I'm like, okay, let me just make up a goal real quick. And then
Mm,
we're going. And it can be really hard to go back and be like, so what do you want this to be when we've already been talking for a few sessions?
yeah, thank you for sharing that, Jamie. And I have a feeling you're not alone in what you're expressing. I think it can be so frustrating to have to do all of these documents, plus now we're giving you more resources. And absolutely, I think the person maybe almost to a point may feel, okay, I'm being interrogated. When is this going to end? You know, this is taking so long. I've already told you everything. Um, when can I actually tell you about what I'm here for? So absolutely. Okay. And thank you, Earl, for sharing that in the chat. Okay. So keeping that in mind, you know, we really do acknowledge the meaningful work that you do. And we know that it's not easy. We know that it takes a lot of effort and energy and it's time consuming and it, you know, may feel exhausting some days. And some days we're wondering, is this paperwork for us or is this for the client? So again, we hope that there's bits and pieces that you can take away, even if it's not the worksheet in its entirety. These are really just additional tools that we hope can support you. And if they don't, and if they're not helpful, that's totally fine too. All right. Thank you for the feedback. It's like golden hour over here in New Jersey, or midday sunshine. I'm right in the sun. Okay. So today we're covering a couple of things. So we want to take some time to really recognize those factors that determine readiness as well as the stages of change. We'll take some time to share yet another resource. And again, up to you if this feels helpful, if it feels unhelpful, if it feels like another chore, another task. We've been utilizing this form for quite some time now and have found it helpful. And I've gotten some really good feedback. So we're always open to your feedback as well. And then we'll take some time to break down those steps of a goal through using this knowledge, skills, and resources KSR form. So at the end of this, we'll take some time to do this kind of big group activity with this form. So we hope that you can get a sense of what it looks like in real time, rather than just kind of tossing a resource your way. So finally jumping a little bit into today's agenda. So we know the golden thread outlines some of the following, and today we're really just focusing on these two specific golden boxes here. We know the golden thread is especially helpful and important because Medicaid requires it. It kind of speaks to maybe some of the feedback that was shared a little bit earlier. We know that it can lead to more effective and efficient intentional services. And today we'll really outline the identification of personal goals as well as how this leads into the development of the ISP, how this looks like with matching stage-based interventions to a person's stage of change, and how you can really support this person. Let me try to adjust myself here. The sun is not my friend today. Okay. So when we are looking at, just back up a little, when we are looking at identifying goals to the KSR, we're really looking at this comprehensive assessment, and this is what will help you and the person that you're working with really determine the goals that they want to work on. And we know that this can, again, take quite some time. We know that it can be quite challenging. Sometimes individuals struggle with identifying goals. Maybe we haven't had experiences where, someone doesn't know what they want to work on, but we really want to use our assessment as a way of identifying those valued life roles, as well as their unmet needs, and then strengths that they have already and the things that they bring to the encounters with you. From there, then what you're really doing is determining readiness, determining a person's stage of change. We know that, let me ask a question, I guess. So when we are trying to figure out where a person is at, thinking about the people that you work with, have you ever had an experience where you created an ISP for someone? You've, either done this over a length of time with them, done it kind of collaboratively. It's all wrapped up in a bow. It's this living, breathing document of how services rendered will look forward or in the future. And you get to this person's house, and maybe this person says, you know what, I don't want to work on this goal today. Has that ever happened to anyone? Or I'm not sure if I want to do this right now. Or probably one of the biggest things are, actually, we need to do something else first before we do that.
It happens a lot in
Yes.
my world. My name's Howard. I can't find my raise your hand thing, so I'm just being rude.
No,
But
go ahead. Not rude at
but
all.
but the joy in our work is to have a conversation and offer reflections as simple as, you got something better to do? What's that? Maybe we should talk about that. Or if it's energy level, if it's an illness, you always have a additional resource to provide, and then say, hey, look, I don't have anything better to do. Let's get this out of the way today. And generally, you have over a 50% chance to encourage them, not persuade them, but encourage them that this might be the right thing to do right now.
Definitely.
I'll
Thank you.
find my.
No worries. Feel free to jump in. I know sometimes I may not even see a hand, so jumping right in is fine with me. Absolutely. I think I really like the word that you said. We are encouraging the people that we serve to make choices that align with their values, to make steps towards the goals that they want to work on. And you have the ability to make that change within someone and support them in achieving the goals that they want to achieve. Were you going to ask that?
And not doing it and replacing it with another activity is kind of like a therapeutic opportunity, which we got to be on the lookout for pretty consistently, I would hope. So
Yeah.
that's the rest of my story.
Thank you for that, Howard. Yes. Yeah, these are some of those first interactions are the most important ones, and we're really helping a person decide and identify which path they're looking to take. They can go sharp left, they can go sharp right, they can kind of follow the path towards their goals. I've seen some other responses in the chat. Let me take a look.
I was gonna say letting them know if their goals change, it's okay.
Yes. Yes.
They know they want to honor that, whatever that looks like. And some tasks may be harder on certain days, and so we focus on the ones they can do.
Love that. Yeah. So really holding the space for someone, if a goal has changed or if a task has changed, we know that we're human. Life gets in the way of goals, even think about ourselves. So oftentimes it's not uncommon to see, you're going to someone's house and they're saying, well, actually, I have to figure out how I can get food this week because I didn't get my benefits, or, my Social Security check didn't come through, or my phone bill is off. And that's a priority. That takes precedence. Let me see the chat. I'm seeing Berkeley shared, had a client who was notorious for, quote, flip-flopping, dependent on the mood, day, the goal, which staff was around him, had to catch him at the exact right moment. So kind of speaks to what Sabrina was sharing, you know, acknowledging and validating that it's okay to change your thoughts, your behaviors, your perspective. And Yvonne, yes, sometimes some others' needs may have to be prioritized. It happens, and that's okay. I like this one. Healing is not linear. Sometimes we see decline. Sometimes there's someone who is a little stagnant, and change can be scary and feel overwhelming. A lot of the time, pushing too hard for a goal of a client stated themselves can make them feel defensive. Yes. Okay. So that's exactly the point that I was leading into. So if we're finding ourselves pushing too hard, or if we are maybe one step ahead of this person, oftentimes as people in the field, we may not realize, or actually we may realize, in fact, that we know what is, quote, best for this person, or we may, you know, have all the answers, and it's really up to us to guide this person to those answers. And to meet this person where they're at, rather than being one step ahead of them, because that's where things can get tricky. And this person then may feel quite uncomfortable with meeting with you, knowing that you are, again, pushing, and then Berkeley absolutely leading to this defensiveness, feeling controlled. They may shut down. They may not want to work on these goals anymore. Lindsay says we often go back to their goals worksheet and clarify areas that have evolved. Absolutely, yeah. So maybe this is like checking in of what's been going well, what do we still need to work on? And we know that this step of identifying, again, this stage of change, so this second bullet here, or third actual bullet here, the stage of change will really determine strategies for engaging with the person. And people can often have a desire to work towards a goal, but may not be ready to take action to work on that goal. So when I think of that statement, is anyone a frequent flyer like myself on Amazon? Oh, yes. So thinking about, I'll speak to myself, and hopefully this resonates, but I may have a strong desire to work on my finances, and yet I can't seem to stop pressing add to cart on my Amazon account, or whatever website that you use, or, you know, thinking about other goals that you have for yourself. If this doesn't resonate with you, pay no mind. But thinking about, you know, for myself, my recent hobby was getting involved in vintage and antique shopping. So maybe it's not the best time for me to get my budget straight just yet, although I'd always love some extra money in my bank account. So if I would reduce some of my spending, maybe I would then have more money. And I'm seeing some others share in the chat to similar situations. Absolutely. So if Berkeley shared having the situation with cigarette smoking, it's, and then in quote, I need to quit, can't smoke anymore, it's so gross, until the routine kicks in, something stressful happens, someone offers you a cigarette, and then it's all out the window. Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of what we talk about, you know, is really having this kind of plan set forward that helps us identify possible triggers or things that are barriers or things that might get in the way, so that we can really follow through on this change plan. William, just Amazon my wife's Christmas gifts yesterday. Wonderful. So keeping that in mind, again, where you are at, you may want to, or you may have this strong urge or desire to work towards a goal, but maybe you're not quite ready. And so really it's exploring, like, what are the good things about, you know, spending money? What are the not so good things about spending money? So we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then lastly, we'll really transition into the knowledge, skills, and resources form. So we want to be able to use this form to help individuals identify their knowledge. So what do they need to know? The skills, so what do they need to do? And then the resources, so what does this person need to have to achieve this goal? And we'll take a look at that in just a moment. So when we're identifying and determining readiness, there's a couple of factors that we keep in mind to do so, and this will help both you and the person that you're working with when and if and how you'll know that they're ready to work on a goal. All right. So the first factor here being felt need. And felt need really speaks to a person's level of dissatisfaction with their current circumstances. So this may sound like, using the example I shared before of, I don't like seeing my bank account low or in the negatives. I don't like not having extra money in my bank account. Maybe this is for someone who is unemployed or laid off or not working. Maybe they're saying, I don't like being unemployed. I don't like being bored at home. I don't like just sitting around and doing nothing. I'm having a hard time staying productive. Does anyone ever hear those statements of kind of this dissatisfaction, maybe some frustration, maybe there's a little sadness as they're identifying things in their life? I realize we can annotate at the same time that I'm speaking. Okay. All right, I'm seeing so often with substance use, pain is the touchstone for growth. I like that. With finances, hating the negative impacts of substances, but not being able to stop themselves in the moment or needing the positive effects. Absolutely, Berkeley, that speaks to even substance use, cigarette use, alcohol use. Yeah, so keeping some of those things in mind, if we're hearing those statements, is this person at a place where they may be ready? And we'll talk how this connects a little bit with stages of change as well in just a moment. But the next factor here is commitment. So this is the belief that change is possible and that change will be positive. So someone can believe that change is possible, but might not believe that their change will be positive, helpful, productive, effective. This could look like, I think I could save $25 a week, or I think I could get a part-time job, or, I could probably manage working 10 to 15 hours a week. I could probably work on weekends. And then the positive piece would be, I'll have more money, or I'll have extra income. I'll be able to save up and to move out of this apartment and find a new place to live. I'll feel better about myself. I'll have a sense of meaning and purpose. So there's this sense of they know or believe or kind of have this hope that change may occur. And if it does, really identifying like, what are some of those good things? What are some of those helpful things that might come out of it? The next factor is internal knowledge. And when we're looking at internal knowledge, this is really related to the person and their desire for change. So this really looks like, what does this person know about this change that they want to make? Is this person at a point where they have all the information they need to make the change? it's almost like this kind of process of discernment of, you're going through gathering knowledge, you're reflecting on some of those internal desires for change. What's the knowledge that I already have? What skills do I already have? What resources do I already have? How am I feeling about this change? What are some of my thoughts related to this change? And this could include what you know about this person. This could include pointing out to this person, some of their knowledge, skills, and resources that they already have, some of the thoughts and beliefs that they've already shared, some of the strengths that they already have. So those are things that are happening within this person. Again, whether it's thoughts, feelings, behaviors, their own knowledge, their own skills, their own access to those ability to make that change happen. And then the last piece here is the external environment. So this is related to the environment where this change will occur. So if a person wants to, let's say, work, what do they know about their working environment? Maybe there's someone who enjoys talking to coworkers, thinking about the shift of working from home. And although maybe you have access to Microsoft Teams or Zoom or email, maybe this person really enjoys being around other people, being able to knock on someone's door really fast. So maybe a telehealth job, or maybe a job where this person doesn't interact with anyone, and really just does more, I don't know, maybe they do spreadsheets all day and they don't talk to anyone. Or maybe they're stalking all day and they don't talk to anyone. So really knowing how this external environment is shaped, or how it is or is not a good fit for this person, can be helpful in determining their readiness. And we'll talk about some questions to ask to really further explore what that might look like. I'm seeing, yes, there's definitely some guilt around the issue. It's the instant gratification that we all enjoy, but it's not long-term nor sustainable. It's a Band-Aid. Yes. And I think that happens with many things. Maybe there is, I know, living on the East Coast, this may be specific to New Jersey, but everyone here moves very fast. We really enjoy how fast, I can't say I enjoy it. Things always are moving very fast. So there is this sense of instant gratification, even with the way technology and thinking about like food delivery, DoorDash, Instacart. So everything's at the click of a button. Things happen so quickly. And we know that in order to make change happen long-term, there really has to be this kind of long-term action and commitment to this goal. And really being able to have all of these knowledge, skills, resources, feeling satisfied, feeling hopeful, feeling excited that this change could happen for this person. So these are some things that we want to keep in mind. Are there any questions about these factors before we jump into how to ask some questions related to these? Sabrina, if you meant KSR, that just stands for knowledge, skills, and resources, which we'll share in a little bit more specifically. Brianne, I'm saying, depending on the person, pick one fear at a time. Absolutely. I run by the pick your hard. If you ever heard that analogy as well. So where there is fear, there's your task. Stages are denial, pre-contemplation, contemplation. Yes, we talk about preparation, action, maintenance. We'll get to that in just a moment. Okay. So let's take a look at some questions that can be helpful to ask. And this can be, really at any point to determine this person's level of dissatisfaction with their current situation. So these are questions that are open-ended and really help to evoke further information. With open-ended questions, we're often asking in the format of how, what, tell me more about, tell me more, or tell me about. So this might look like, tell me what you like or what you dislike about fill in the blank, whether this is not working, whether this is using substances. And this really helps to explore where this person is at, how dissatisfied they might be. Are there things that they enjoy with their current situation? You may also ask, tell me about what your life will look like if you do or do not make this change. Has anyone ever used, this almost reminds me of the miracle question. Is that familiar to anyone? Seen a couple of yeses, couple no's. Okay. So the miracle question is often more helpful, and this is, there's kind of a caveat to this as well, but the miracle question often is in the format of, let's imagine that you went to bed tonight, and while you were sleeping, a miracle happened. You woke up, and everything that you came to see me for was no longer there. So what would that look like? How might you feel? What would be different? And really exploring what this person's life would look like if these situations, thoughts, feelings, behaviors were not there. And then further exploring, what would your life look like if you were to make this change? And Ian, absolutely. It definitely takes trust building. You're building an alliance, you're building rapport, you're getting to know this person. How often are we as humans quick to divulge information? Chances are not very quick. So keep that in mind as, we know that the expectation is often you're gathering this information at the first encounter, second encounter, third encounter, and it can be very personal. This person may feel vulnerable. So being able to allow for this felt sense of safety can be important, absolutely. Another question is, how important is it for you to make this change? And so hoping that gets a sense of what it may look like to explore this person's level of dissatisfaction. Then as we explore into commitment, we're asking, tell me about risks to whatever this change might be. So making this change. So we're exploring this belief that change is possible and that it will be positive. So it'll have a positive or helpful outcome for this person. My favorite question to ask is, what will you have to give up to make this change? Because oftentimes think about any changes that we're making, it really means letting go of an old behavior. It means letting go of something that we felt so comfortable doing. There is this sense of grief and loss. What needs to happen for you to make this change? Tell me about how this change will make your life better. Or maybe what concerns do you have about your current behavior? If you make this change, what's the best thing that could happen? If you make this change, how do you think your future would be different from where you're at right now? And then in thinking about this change that you want to make, do you expect to have to make any changes in yourself to achieve this change? So it kind of speaks to that question of, what will you have to give up? What will you have to do in order to make this change? And then lastly, tell me how people in your life can help you to make this change. So keeping these questions in mind as we move forward, we'll take a moment to do an activity. But I hope that this resonates with the people that you work with, because oftentimes there is a challenge and there is a risk needing to be taken. And there is a, again, sense of grief or maybe a loss that's happening when you're letting go of something that you're so used to doing. Okay. Then some questions to explore internal knowledge. So the things that this person already has to make this desired change. So tell me about what is most or least important about this change that you want to make. Tell me about what interests or disinterests you about this change. And then tell me about what is most important to you about this change. So exploring how to make this change happen, what's happening within this person that will help or hurt them, or what will make it helpful or more challenging or more difficult. And then our last set of questions, and again, we'll share this PDF presentation as well as the recording, so you have access to some of these questions. And chances are these are questions that you may already be asking. So the last one is to explore that in external knowledge related to the environment. So tell me about what you will need to be successful at making this change. Tell me about the ideal environment. So if this person is thinking about working and they're unsure about where, what would this environment look like? In a perfect world, how might this look? And then tell me about where you need to go in order to make this change. So let's take a moment. We're gonna explore some questions that you may use. So we have this person, Patricia, who is a 35-year-old woman living in Kennewick, Washington. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. She had previously worked in a Safeway for 3 years before a brief hospitalization. She has decided to return to work as it would help her financially, but she has expressed some ambivalence. So what might you ask Patricia if you wanted to explore Patricia's felt need, so that level of dissatisfaction with her current circumstances? What's a question you might ask?
Do you still want to work in the medical field?
Right. Yeah, maybe, since being hospitalized, her goals, her values, her interests, her hobbies have changed. Absolutely. So instead of assuming, she may want to return to this specific place, exploring that.
I would want to know what barriers were. After what Larky said, is this where you really want to go? Confirm or deny? This is actually what I want to do. I want to go back to work at wherever it is. And what would be keeping you from doing that, whatever the ultimate goal was, those barriers, and that we could work together to try to eliminate them or get by them, and see if she'd be in agreement to figuring out the best route to get to whatever level of re-engagement she's looking to get to.
Absolutely.
So I'd be looking for buy-in at every level, whether it's a nod or whatever it was. I just want to gauge what her interest was and what she was willing to commit to.
Yeah, you made a good point, Howard. Those nonverbal cues, body language, eye roll, a slight raise of an eyebrow, gives you a sense of what is this person like? Are there any barriers? How does this person feel about returning to work? I'm seeing some others in the chat as well. What drives you to find work? What are you missing? Why do you not want to go back to work? What are your concerns with returning back to Safeway? What type of work are you looking to return to? What did you like and dislike about working at Safeway? Exactly. How did you feel when you worked at Safeway versus now? Yeah, so comparing how these thoughts and feelings may have shifted and changed since then. What circumstances brought you to this decision? Are there any barriers that would get in the way? What areas do they like, dislike, socially, environmentally, physically? Yeah, so getting a kind of a whole picture of what's an ideal place to work. If this decision was already made for you and you either were or were not working again, what would that look like? Awesome. And what does returning to work look like to you? Full-time, part-time? Yes. Does Safeway fit that? Absolutely. So this is getting a sense of what this person needs. What are the pros and cons? What are the good things and the not so good things to working? Wonderful. What about when we're thinking about questions to ask Patricia to explore her commitment? So her belief that this change is possible and it will be positive. What might you ask her to further explore that?
I would try to, I just the basic Q&A. This is going to be potentially pretty tough. You're going to have to do a lot of different types of things to make it happen. How much are you willing to pitch into? How much energy do you have? How much time do you have? How much,
Hmm?
gumption do you have? It's not going to be easy. Let's not mistake. It's not like you just walk in there and sit down and grab a hot chocolate. You remember what it was like. Let's think about that for a minute.
Absolutely. Yes. Go ahead, Howard.
No, that's
I have it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so I would ask them what their availability is. When I ask the availability, that gets them thinking, well, when can I work? And so that's what I would do, is ask for their availability of time. How early do you want to work? Morning shift, mid shift, evening shift? How late, how early can you work? How will you get to work? All those things. If there's any transportation barriers, when you ask that question, it reveals a lot.
For sure. Yeah. So what is this person willing to commit to based on their availability? How much availability do they have? Similarly, Howard, you were mentioning kind of what is this person's willingness to commit time, energy, effort? What is this person willing to give up? What does this person need to do to make this change happen? What's this person's motivation to return to work? Seeing a lot of other examples similarly, or like looking for the specific type of work. What difference will going back to work make in your life? What is the motivation for getting back? Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Okay, I have a feeling we're so skillful. We know what we're doing. I love it. Couple others. What about when we're exploring internal knowledge? So this is, again, knowledge related to Patricia and her desired change. How might we ask questions to get a sense of what she already knows about going back to work? Sabrina says, what are your skills associated with completing this goal?
I'm just going to verbally put in, you would probably ask her like, well, what do you have in place when you first start work? Is there anything that needs to be done? Ask her if she's thought about that. She might need childcare. Some things what are things that could be obstacles basically, and what are things that are in place now that would help, or what things do you need to put in place?
Right. Yeah. And at the same time, also identifying, does she have those things, right? So what's needed, what's missing, what does she already have that she brings to the table? Tell me about your role before you left. Is there any training you may need to go to work? That's great. Is now really the appropriate time and best opportunity? Is there any reason or situation that's preventing you from returning to work? Are there any processes that you might need retraining for? Yeah, so really understanding and identifying, what does Patricia already know about returning to work? What is Patricia and her current skill set? What are resources that she may need or people that she needs to connect to? And then this last part is external knowledge. So questions related to the environment. And I think we actually kind of got a sense for with some of the other questions, but maybe this looks like. Tell me about what you will need to be successful to make this change happen. So knowledge related to the environment, getting a sense of what this environment will look like for Patricia. So hopefully, again, this really paints the picture of how will you get to work? Yeah, that's a big one. There's some things that we may underestimate. We may realize how it's part of our routine to wake up, go about our morning, get to work. And we may not realize the things that this person needs to know, skills they need to have, and things they need to do to be successful as well. Exploring skills level, absolutely. So thank you for sharing some questions. It sounds like we have a really good sense of how to support this person in identifying what they already bring to the table, what they need more of, what they need to know. So we'll transition this into stages of change, and keeping kind of those questions in mind as we're determining readiness. Is anyone familiar with stages of change? And thank you for the other questions in the chat as well. Yes, okay. So then I'll only, briefly spend some time on this and kind of drive the point home of acknowledging that stages of change are fluid. So they are not linear. Someone can cycle through stages several times. Someone can be at pre-contemplation, make their way to action, and be back in contemplation, thinking about, oftentimes we know that this is used with individuals who engage in substance use, but this is really helpful for any behavior. And we know that people experience different levels of motivation for different goals. So you may have someone who's in the action stage of change on one goal and then pre-contemplation stage of change in another goal. But we want to keep in mind how these stages of change and interventions match that person's stage of change. And we say this because we share this beautiful, wonderful handout or slide here that we find to be quite helpful, especially when we're matching stages of change with interventions. So this is really just an outline of each stage of change and those interventions you might use in each stage of change. So I won't spend too much time talking about this, but we hope that this is a resource that you can use. We know, again, it's so important to make sure that we're not one step ahead of this person. Has anyone here ever set a New Year's resolution for themselves or a New Year's intention for themselves? Yes, every year, all the time. Okay. Okay, and let's think about a time where, maybe we worked on this change for a little bit. We set this New Year's resolution. How long were we able to maintain this change? Kathleen, I'm with you. Good intentions. 20 days, 16 hours. Maybe it's a couple minutes. Maybe it's a couple months. Literally forget about it. Yeah. My longest was 2 months. Okay. I'm a big fan of New Year's intentions because I intended to do this. And if it didn't work out, the intention was there. It was a good intention, but it may not necessarily have worked out in my favor. But keep this in mind because we know for ourselves, keep that in mind. Again, we know that we're human. We often recycle through stages of change, may depend on the goal. It is very hard to wake up one day and start something fresh and expect it to work out 100%. For some people, this works, and more power to you. But if this person maybe something gets in the way of maintaining this goal, maybe this person, lost a support person. Maybe this person is struggling with a new trigger. Maybe this person doesn't have the skills to quite effectively make this change happen. We really just want to take a moment and acknowledge, like, we're human. We know that it is so difficult to maintain change for a long time. How can we improve this change plan? What do we need to do differently? Change is hard. So keep that in mind. And Stacey says, yeah, it depends on what the goal was. Some I have stuck with for years and others dropped off within a month. Yeah, maybe there's a societal expectation to create this goal. So again, we hope that it's important for us when we're working with people, if this person is, let's say, at a contemplation stage of change, so they're really stuck in this kind of ambivalent stage. What we're doing is really some of those motivational interviewing strategies. We're using the decisional balance sheet or the pros and cons sheet. We're exploring what's the good thing, what's the not so good thing. We're helping this person identify and really listening for moments when you're hearing it not exactly aligned with their values, or it's not aligned with who they are as a person. And you're kind of catching those moments, but you're making sure that you're still matching where they're at. All right. One more slide. We'll take a short break right after this. So now that we have really gone through the steps, we again have taken the time to determine this person's readiness. We've acknowledged their stage of change. We know where they're at in this process of creating or achieving this new goal. And now we are collaborating together to explore their current knowledge, skills, and resources. So the way that this is laid out, we will talk about it in just a moment. But we want this to be a process to help identify the strengths that this person has again, and things that they might need to meet that goal. So what is that unmet need? What do they already have? What do they bring to the table? Because oftentimes we know it can be challenging for individuals to, have a sense of hopefulness for their future. So keeping that in mind. Any questions before we take a quick break in between here? All right. All right, we'll take a quick coffee break, bathroom break, do what you need. Let's say we'll give ourselves 7 minutes. So returning back at, I'm in a different time zone, 10:40. I'll see you shortly. I'll pause the recording as well. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you had a chance to stretch your feet, stretch your legs, hydrate, get another cup of coffee if you need it this morning, tea, what have you. And welcome back. We are just in the remaining second half of our session here today, and we're just going to cover really what this KSR form looks like. So I keep alluding to it. You're probably like, Crystal, what is this form already? You keep mentioning it. Let's just get into it. So we're going to talk about what this looks like. And when we talk about goal achievement, we often talk about things that get in the way of goal achievement. So thinking about the people that you work with, what often gets in the way of achieving their goal? Energy, yeah. Time management, miscommunication, self-doubt. So many different factors here. Stress, absolutely. Maybe there's other things getting in the way. Lack of support. They don't have someone to connect with, lean on, rely on. legal barriers, health issues, resources, support, fear of failure or fear of success. Yeah, how uncomfortable is it to step out of my comfort zone, do something I'm not used to doing? Fear in all caps, absolutely. Finances, managing symptoms of mental health or substance use disorders, staying sober, transportation, being overwhelmed, not being adequately trained. Yeah. So there's so many things that get in the way depending on the goal that you're working on with this person. And then oftentimes we know what really gets in the way is this lack of knowledge about this goal or what they need to do, lack of skills related to this goal. So thinking about, I won't get ahead of myself, keeping in mind what skills are needed to perform tasks related to this goal, and then a lack of needed resources. So I challenge you to even think of a goal where it doesn't include knowledge, skills, resources, because usually what we're trying to emphasize here is that each goal is broken down into knowledge, skills, and resources. So in order to overcome those barriers, a fun little slide transition, we need to help this person to attain that knowledge. We need to help this person learn some skills, and we need to help this person acquire the resources in order to overcome those barriers. So we're going to take the remainder of our time here really emphasizing these knowledge, skills, and resources. So in order to explore those barriers that we've mentioned, we need to help identify some of the following. So when we're asking about knowledge, we're asking, what does this person need to know? When we're asking about skills, we're asking, what does this person need to do? And then with resources, what does this person need to have? So really taking a look at the following to help you get a sense of what this person already has, what's missing. And this is so helpful for both the person that you're working with, but also yourself, so that you're not teaching this person things they already know, or you're not educating them on things that they're already aware of. So when we look at, for instance, the goal of taking medication, we've included so many different things that come into play when we're talking about taking medication. It's more than simply picking up a pill, taking it, and putting it in your mouth and calling it a day. This person maybe needs a pill box. This person maybe needs a way to sort the meds. Maybe it's helpful for this person to know how to set an alarm. Not only is it important to know how to set an alarm, but maybe this person needs to have an alarm. Does this person have access to a smartphone? Does this person have an actual alarm clock by their nightstand, in their room, in their place? This person needs to know how often to take each pill and each dose. This person needs to know the skill of being able to call the pharmacy for refills. How many individuals that you work with, or was there ever a time where someone told you they're out of meds, but it's been 5 days since they last took their medication? I know that happened for me quite often when working with individuals, seen some yeses, yeah. So we know there's so much that comes into play as we're keeping this in mind. So we're going to take some time to practice kind of this first element, and we're going to look at, oh, was there a comment? If there is, let me know. So unmute, but I don't know who it was. Okay. So we're going to take a moment to practice, and really this first step of identifying what someone, or what goes into helping someone obtain a job. So what does someone need to know, do, and have to obtain a job? And I am going to, right as we go. So feel free to share in the chat. What are some things that a person needs to know, do, and have to obtain a job? Documentation. Resume, job skills, and address. Yeah, how many times does an application ask for your address? Probably several times. Ability to get there. So whether that's transportation of any kind. Ooh, lots of good stuff. Okay. I see.
Where we live, it's identification. Oh, yeah, you just put it up.
Yeah, I read your mind.
You got, okay, you better stop doing that. Well, you got to have ID, and Seattle is such a, beg your pardon? You beat me to it? Okay. My workmate said they beat me to it. Anyway, here we have people from all over the country. IDs can cost hundreds of dollars. We're getting stuff from high school diplomas and yearbook. I mean, some of the wildest 20 phone call kind of situations to get them ID. So yeah, ID ready.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I went too long on that one. I'm gonna mute out.
You're so funny. No, it takes time. I think we underestimate how life works. It takes, to your point, several phone calls, and then you're kind of going through this runaround in order to get an ID. And now this person delays their job application submission, and now they've missed the deadline to submit their application. All right, I'm seeing references. Absolutely. Mock interview, maybe that's a skill. The ability to practice what it might be like. Cover letter. Certifications, if that's important. Interview skills. Social Security, so that, yeah, absolutely goes into this here. All those demographic important documents. Interview clothing. You're all typing faster than I can read. Interview clothing. Work clothing. References, education, skills. And education could absolutely depend on this person's, the job that they're applying for. Do they need a high school degree? Do they need an associate's? Do they need a bachelor's? Do they need experience? Oh, yeah, I just say experience. Physical limitations. Availability, computer skills. Yeah, so think about how easy it is now to submit an application online with the click of a button. Instead of going to the location, taking a hard copy of an application, going back to the location, dropping off the application, a phone or a way of contacting. So again, that goes into some of those documents that we need. Their own phone number as well, a reliable phone number, phone and phone number. Knowing physical limitations, finding appropriate work environment. Ooh. Ability, hours.
I wanted to say, is he looking for a job or is he looking for the job? Is this job going to be, is it because it pays $2 more than that job? Or is it something that I can commit to kind of, you know what I'm saying? This is what I really want to do, but I'm going to do this because I need money kind of thing.
Yeah, and hard to say. So that's identifying with that person that you're working with. Is this a lifelong forever job? Is this something in between? How or what are the things that I need to just kind of get by because I'm needing some additional financial support? Can I commit to a part-time job because I already have a full-time job, but I need extra money because my full-time job doesn't pay me enough? Maybe we can, relate to some of that. And then so we need another job. And how many hours can I commit to? And do I have enough time now to commit to an extra 10 to 15 hours? When will I sleep? So exploring my schedule and structure. Daycare I'm seeing.
Oh, you have references. Okay. Oh,
So many things. I think I'm missing some that I'm seeing in the chat. Lisa, I'm seeing you can even Zoom the interviews now. Yeah, so you can complete your whole interview online without even leaving your house. You're dressed up, business on top, party on the bottom, no one knows. It's that simple. So life has evolved, and we know this. So keeping in mind how you're helping this person get this job, what is that job? What does that job require? Personal hygiene, transportation. All right, so again, this is not an all exhaustive list, but this was really a way to brainstorm all of the things that we might need. Because to everyone's point, we're not just meeting with this person, they're saying, I want to work, and they're going to work tomorrow. I wish life worked like that. I wish I could wave a magic wand and this person gets a job tomorrow. But we know that's not the reality of things. And Katie, that's a great point. Is this person happier with a repetitive type of job or looking for some variety? Maybe this person is working in a specific field and they want to do something outside of their field just for fun. One time when I was younger, I worked at this place that had bounce houses and laser tag, and it was the coolest thing ever. So what is this person looking to do in their spare time? Is it enjoyable? Is it exciting? Is it fun? Okay. So again, this is that first step. Let's see if I can, I hope it stays there. In identifying what this person needs to obtain a job. The next step now, oh, I hope this works. Come on, you can do it. Oh no. Never mind. Okay. Keep this in mind as our brainstorming process. And thank you all for contributing to the whole variety of things that come into play with obtaining a job. What we'll do next, let me delete this. Like, I don't want to delete this. This is a work of art, but I will clear all of our drawings here and we will transition. This was really this brainstorming process. So it may take some time, and we know how important it is to do that and to be thorough and to ask these difficult questions, because oftentimes the individuals we work with may not know that it's not as simple as applying for a job and getting the job. Research often shows it takes applying to several, I don't want to say hundreds, but it's a good number. The number is up there. So then after we're brainstorming, we're categorizing, we're identifying where this information falls into knowledge. Is it a skill or is it a resource? And then we're assessing how to determine this person's readiness and preparedness. So we're going to show you how this looks like in real time. Let me stop share to switch screens here. Give me just a moment. All right, let me just delete my 50 tabs so you don't see that. I'm organized, I swear. All right. Sharing screen again. So this is how this KSR form looks like in real time. I'm going to zoom this larger. Someone could just let me know if you hear this as I press play, and we'll take a moment to watch this through, and then we will check in and chat right after.
Hi, Emily. How are you?
I'm doing well, Zakia. How are you?
Good. So I just wanted to follow up because I know last week when we met and started talking about some of the goals that you want to work on, you talked a little bit about two different things. One was cooking and the other one was going back to school. So I was wondering if we could talk a little bit more about that and start to plan out the steps for your IRP.
I think that sounds great. I was really thinking about it, and I definitely want to pursue going back to school, but I also really want to learn how to cook.
Yeah. It's a really important skill, especially since you just moved in. What are some things that you're interested in learning how to cook? What types of foods?
Well, I'm vegetarian, so that limits some food items that I can eat. So I just made the change for health reasons, and I'm not really sure what are good foods to eat to maintain a healthy diet, but still not eat meat products.
So it sounds like you're really focusing on your nutrition, and so learning how to cook healthier items would really contribute to your wellness that you're really trying to incorporate into your life.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I've used in the past is something called a knowledge skill resource form, and that really could give me or us a better idea as to things that you're already doing, skills that you already have in terms of cooking, and areas that maybe we can include on the IRP. Would you be open to having a conversation? And the KSR is actually right here. I brought it with me, and we could fill it out together.
Absolutely.
So the first thing, before we even look at the form, is I just wanted to brainstorm just some ideas of what you think are steps or things that anybody would need to either know, skills that you would need to do, or maybe even resources or items that you might need if you're preparing to cook.
So I definitely think I would need recipes because I'm not really good at looking at a set of ingredients and just putting them together off of the top of my head. So I would need some structure with that. I would need the food listed in the recipes,
Yeah.
which is good because the recipes are a great guide. That's why I like to use them. I actually love to read, so maybe even a cookbook.
That's a really good idea. And I'm sure some of the cookbooks will have recipes in it as well.
Absolutely.
I know you just moved in. Can I provide some suggestions to you? I know when I first moved in my place, one of the things that was helpful for me, because I like to bake, measuring cups
Yeah. I don't think I
and measuring spoons.
Yeah, I don't think I got that.
What about measurements? I know sometimes that can be confusing for me. So whether they use the abbreviations TSP versus
TBS.
Yeah.
I never know which is which.
exactly. So would that go along with the terminology?
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely have that in. I was also gonna say, and I don't know if this necessarily is a huge piece of this, but food items like vegetables tend to go bad quickly. So I definitely would have to manage my time so that when I'm purchasing the food items, everything stays fresh and nothing goes bad.
That's a really good idea. All right, so we have a list of 11 items. So that's the brainstorming process. So now that we have that, we're going to flip it around to the actual form, and you'll see here that it's broken down into 3 different categories, whether it's a knowledge, skill, or resource. And so with that, what I would say is if we can go through all of the items and try to decide if what we listed either falls into the knowledge, what you need to know category, whether it's a skill, something that you need to be able to do, or if it's a resource, something that you need to have in order to accomplish your goal of learning how to cook. So the first one is recipes. Do you think that's a knowledge, skill, or resource?
I would say it's a resource.
The next one?
So food items I would say is also a resource.
Okay.
The cookbook is a resource. Actually, these two could probably go together.
Yeah, so we can keep it as a resource for now. I do want to go back to food items too. I see that you put it as a resource, and I agree with that. Do you think it also could be something that you need to know as far as what food items you might need for a recipe?
Yeah, because I can't just go to the store and pick anything. I have to follow the recipe. So I do need to know what food items to purchase.
And you'll see sometimes as we go through this that some of the items might fall into 2 categories, but that's fine. So the last part of what we're going to do for today, because I know you have to run out, is looking at whether you have a good understanding or have the particular resource we have listed. If you have an understanding but you need a little bit more assistance, or if it's something that maybe you're not aware of at all, or a resource that you just need to acquire that you don't have. So if we go through each of the items, so food items, knowing what food items you would need for a recipe, is that something that you have a good understanding of, you have somewhat of an understanding but need education, or you really, could benefit from some support in that area?
I think I could really benefit from some support in that area.
So let's just put an X or a check there.
Okay.
Terminology and abbreviations.
I need a lot of help with that.
Okay. That's great. And so what I do want to point out though is that all of these items over here where we have need more education, need to learn the skill, or need to acquire the resource, we can take a look at that the next time I come over to really see if those are steps that we can outline on the IRP. But look what you're already starting with. So you already know how to budget, you're already paying your rent on time, and I know from visiting with you over the last couple of weeks, you do seem to have enough food, and you're able to go grocery shopping. You do use coupons sometimes, which is really good.
Yeah.
And luckily, a family member gave you pots and pans. So those are really all strengths that can really help and contribute to achieving the goal of cooking. So
Thank you so much, Zakia.
No
This was
problem.
really helpful.
All right. So you will meet, I think you've already met Emily, who will be with you next week, our world-winning actor here. But we hope that that was helpful. Let me get back to my PowerPoint. And really identifying how this looks like in real time. What did you notice, or what did you like that the counselor, Zakia, or the person sitting on the left did with Emily in exploring some of those knowledge, skills, and resources? And absolutely, we can share this. Earl, if you don't mind putting this in the chat for us. Right on it. Earl is like rapid fire. We love it. So the form is in the chat for you all. What did we like? I'm seeing that was awesome and helpful. And yes, in New Jersey, we use individualized rehabilitation or recovery plan. This is more specific. We know that you use individualized service plan. Anything here that you liked or thought was helpful that Zakia did in engaging the client? Saying she offered many suggestions that sounded like choices or options. I like that she went back and showed her how much she already had. Yes, that's what I always notice too. You're really acknowledging, like, look at all the things that you are already able to do. Look at the things that maybe you already have at your house. Look at the things that you're so capable of doing. You already have access to this. I like how she guided her through a conversation and focused on skills assets she already had. Yes. Yeah, it was a very casual conversation. And we know that this is a role play, and hoping that it kind of paints a picture of what it might look like in real time. I like the brainstorming. It's hard to organize all the thoughts you have. Yes, I'm a big fan of sticky notes. I have like every color sticky note everywhere. It's actually probably almost problematic, but however that works for you, you're able to use, whether it's the form, whether it's sticky notes, whether it's a whiteboard, if you're having a verbal conversation, we know that writing it down gets it all on paper so that you can then kind of categorize. Providing confidence, she let the client lead, but offered helpful guidance and advice. And yes, the form does break everything down. So we'll show you what that looks like more specifically in just a moment. So we want to take this form and we're going to use an activity to go through this together as a group. So we're using a person here, Samantha, who is a 66-year-old female who has been diagnosed with depression and anxiety since her mid-20s. Samantha has lived with her husband, however, he recently passed away, leaving Samantha unable to independently pay for her rent. Samantha has a 28-year-old daughter who is supportive of other needs, but is unable to assist Samantha with housing. Samantha is still dealing with the grief of losing her husband and finds the process of moving daunting. Her symptoms of anxiety and depression have increased recently. So along with this picture, so we've got a sense of who Samantha is. Her husband passed, now unable to pay for her rent. Her daughter's unable to assist. Symptoms are increasing. So we then transition to the worksheet that was shared by Earl last week with these 8 dimensions of wellness. And this was helpful for being able to further elaborate on some of this information. So some of Samantha's wellness information. So in order to support this first part, this environmental housing wellness, Samantha rates herself as a 2. She wants to move to a 3. Sounds realistic, sounds feasible. Since she can no longer afford to pay for her apartment on her own, as her income is not enough to support her $1,700 a month rent. Can't find that in New Jersey. In order to move from a 2 to a 3, Samantha reports that she will need to downsize to find a studio or smaller 1-bedroom apartment for less than $1,100 per month. So she has prioritized this as something that she wants to work on. She wants to find a studio or 1-bedroom for $1,100 or less. And then she's also prioritized her emotional and mental health. So she wants to work on moving from a 2 to a 3 because of this anxiety. She's still dealing with the sudden death of her husband, in addition to the stress of having to find a new apartment. So a lot of things are, coming into play. This increased stress. I will take moving to New Jersey off my list. Yeah, sorry to break your heart. I don't know what rent is like in Washington, although I will surely be back to Washington. I was there recently and it was gorgeous. Anyway, back on track here. Let's help Samantha find an $1,100 or less apartment or studio for rent. Let's imagine that this is possible. So what we're going to do is similarly to what we were doing before, brainstorming, but then we're going to break it down and categorize. So if we're focusing on Samantha's housing goal of finding a new apartment that's $1,100 and under, because she can no longer afford to pay rent of $1,700, what do we need to support Samantha in this housing goal? What are some things that she might need to know, do, have? Look for rooms for rents. Vacancies list. A fair market rate. Wow.
Well, now there's also discounted people with incentivized units. She's 66, so immediately there's the hand goes up and says, "Oh, what do we do for seniors? What do we do for this or that?" But there's tons of incentivized units. We actually have a team that's pretty good at identifying them, so we want to connect them to units that already have a plan for lowering the rent. She might even be able to stay in the same unit at 30% of income or something like that. So
okay, so knowing where to find the person who's helping with this incentivized unit. Making a budget, absolutely. See the HUD senior housing list. So maybe this falls into the same kind of spot. Does Samantha qualify for a subsidy? Don't look at San Diego just became the most expensive location in the nation. Wow. Look into lower income housing. What to do with all her belongings? Yeah. So when someone's thinking about moving or finding a new place, it's not as simple as taking your backpack and moving next door. Similarly with finding a job. So belongings. Maybe does she need boxes? Does she need storage? How will she move? What will that cost? Wonderful questions. Oh, location to schools and needed services. So maybe distance from school, bus, grocery, all of the needed essentials. Maybe similarly, when we're thinking about applying for a job, this person also needs to have all their information ready. Some places ask for credit score. Does she have any history of credit? Oh, I see mental health.
Also any history of eviction, that's a no-brainer here. That's a real bad situation.
Any legal involvement? Sometimes we're looking for criminal history, although there is laws in place to support individuals who have a history of incarceration, ability to expunge some records. Oh, accessibility. That's important. Does
I know in my area, there is housing specifically for people with mental health diagnosis that can get a voucher that stays with that unit. And then they are attached to that unit. So like there's a place called Andy's Place in my area. So finding out that mental health aspect is like important, it could lead to opening a door.
Absolutely. Yeah, connecting to specific services that this person may now qualify for. Yeah. Okay, I'm seeing other examples. What her ideal housing situation looks like. Criminal history. Make a mock apartment application with her. We're thorough here.
Sit down and do it. We're just going to exchange ideas about how we can.
Ooh. Okay, I'm seeing some feedback in the chat. And Benjamin, you make a good point. You love all the ideas and options, and it can be so difficult to make this happen in real time. We can have this person's ideal apartment, house, complex, neighborhood, access to resources in mind. And we know that it's not always as simple as snapping our fingers and making this happen. So we are often jumping through hoops, but absolutely it's documentation is needed for application. And again, we're doing this brainstorming process to help this person identify what they already have and what they need. So what documents needed, desired location, yeah, where do I sleep while I'm going through this process? Does this person have any other family to connect with? Does that mean now connecting with local shelters? Connecting with former friends, peers? Does this person have a support system to help them do this? Does this person need someone now to move these boxes with them? Does this person now need money for the storage unit or for carrying boxes? Yes, there's often a lot of things that get in the way of all of this. So again, it's identifying all these things, and then the next step here, let's see if I can do this correctly. No, okay, hold on a second. That was unsuccessful. Technical difficulties. All right. So once we've brainstormed, now we want to categorize, and bear with me while I just transition this into the next slide. So here is the form which we just shared in the chat, and we know that it's a little small on this screen. But after we've brainstormed, our next step is now to categorize. So we're looking at this list, and again, of course, not all inclusive, not exhaustive. We know that it's not as easy as 1, 2, 3. So we're keeping this in mind when we're helping someone find housing. We are now looking at this list. So taking a look at this first item here, a vacancies list. Is this something that falls into knowledge, skills, or resources for this person? Resources, yeah, absolutely. Not a trick question. We'll put R for resources. What about making a budget? Would that be a knowledge, skill, or a resource?
It's your skill, I would think. Oh, you already did the resource. Where is it?
Let's see, knowledge, skill. Yeah, it could be all the things. It could be I need to know how to make a budget, and I need the skill of making the budget.
Yeah.
And maybe now I need a resource of, a piece of paper and a pen to save and store this budget somewhere. So it could be absolutely all of the above. So what we're doing here is going step by step through each of these and categorizing it into things this person already knows or what they need to know, things this person needs to be able to do to achieve their goal, and then things this person needs to acquire. So when we're really breaking this down and then identifying, similarly to the role play, of if this person has a good understanding of this, if this person has some understanding of this but needs more information, maybe they entirely need education in this area, maybe they have no clue how to make a budget, and so they need your support in creating this budget. Behaviors that they need to do, so can they perform this skill whenever they need to, independently on their own? Maybe this person now needs practice. They have the skill, but they need a little bit of help. Or do they need to learn this skill entirely? And then with the resources, this person, I know someone shared mental health or grief support. Does this person have access to mental health counselor, therapist, psychiatrist, friend, community support, recovery support? Do they need to acquire this resource? Do they need you to show them where these places are located, where to find a mental health professional, where to connect with peers in the community? And at the same time, when you use this form, you're then able to, after assessing all of this information, you're then able to point out, okay, it looks like you have some information about budgeting, but maybe you need support in creating it. Maybe you need some additional skills in writing out your whole budget. Or maybe you are someone who needs the resource of finding a psychiatrist, but you have a therapist, but you still need a psychiatrist maybe for medication management. So now you're then breaking this down into its separate places and parts, highlighting this person's strengths, acknowledging the things that they still need, and supporting them with moving forward. So I'll take a moment to pause right there. Does this make sense? Is this form something that we can see ourselves using? Maybe you're saying, Crystal, not another form. Please, not another form. All right, I'm seeing a couple yeses. Awesome. I love a good form too. Yes, we'll share it in the chat once more. I'm seeing that you have maybe forms that are similar to this. Awesome. I can see myself using it for myself. Yeah. I think this is such a great way to break this down. When you're able to see what is needed, you are able to make this goal all the more realistic. It doesn't feel as daunting. It doesn't feel as overwhelming. It helps us to look at all of its separate parts. Awesome. All right. I'm a big fan of forms myself. So I hope that this was helpful in really outlining what is needed. So we went through this brainstorming process. We identified everything that we need to reach a person's goal of whether that's obtaining housing, finding a job, whatever that might look like. And then you're breaking it down and categorizing into these knowledge, skills, and resources. And then lastly, you're checking off with them if they have an understanding of this, if they need more education, and where they fall into their own knowledge about each specific item on this list. All right, so we're excited for you to use this in the future, whether it's for yourself or with an individual that you work with. We've gotten some great feedback, so let us know if it works, if it doesn't work. So again, just to really wrap up and summarize here in our remainder few minutes, when we're looking at the goal, we know that this is developed using our assessment. And then with identifying an objective, it really is those unmet needs identified on that KSR form. So when someone says something like, I need help with this skill, boom, add it to the objective. And then with strengths, this is what the person already has. So this is when the person is telling you, I have a good understanding of this. I can complete this skill. I already have this resource. So you're then identifying, okay, these are all the things you bring to the table. Let's fill in the gaps. And that then transitions to the ISP that you are doing with the individual. All right, any questions? You'll be dreaming about the KSR now because we've talked about it for so long. All right. Then in our last couple moments, we are wrapping up here. So we know that next week, we have the ISP applying in the SMART framework. So Emily will be here leading next. Oh, Howard, did you have a question?
I do actually. I just wanted to make sure, we're really digging this, my little team. There was 38 of us and we're now 6, but we need I can't download any of the stuff that you share, and they were going to send me the recordings and the PowerPoint, and I really, really need that because we can only bring half the people in to do this at one time, but it's extremely useful. It simplifies everything. We got them breathing down our necks, and we need the information. I tried to copy some of those forms that you sent, and you got it all blocked up. So if you could do that, my email is in the chat, and man, we need it badly. I'll add my phone number too. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, thank you. Howard, if you can send me or Earl a direct message with your email, that would be helpful. Hopefully, we want to make sure that you have access to these recordings, PowerPoint presentations, PDF resources, because we're giving you so much juicy information, and we hope that you distribute and disperse it amongst your team. I will say I have been seeing these trainings get uploaded into the Washington's YouTube channel. So we're live and running on there. Not live, recorded videos are there thereafter. And we would encourage you to connect with the Washington Healthcare Authority individuals. Earl, if you're here, I know I'm seeing lots of emails in the chat. We'll hopefully make sure that you are getting these because this is all important information. Thank you for letting me know. All right. So with that being said, next Monday we will be here, same time, same place. Monday, November 27th, the last Monday of the month at 9:30. And we will see you then. But before we let you go, we wanted to remind you, we always have a learning application. So if you get a chance, review a service plan, look at the goals, look at the objectives, and identify whether the objective is related to a knowledge, skill, or resource to achieve that goal. And last but not least, we will share the evaluation with you. And yes, Earl said that we will follow up with DBHR to ensure that you receive the recording in PowerPoint. We know that that's very important. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Please take a moment to complete this evaluation. It is anonymous. Your feedback is very much welcome. Thank you for your engagement. This was wonderful. If there's any questions, we're here to support you. If not, we will see you next Monday, the 27th. Same time, same place. Have a great week, everyone. Enjoy the holidays if you celebrate.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.